this should be a message around the world. What you take, you will be given. And if you take it, you will be given more until you stop taking it. And this is why it comes back to these three groups. Group number one will take it because it hasn't got a thought in its head. Group number two will take it because it doesn't want to, but it's frightened of not taking it. Group number three won't take it. And that's why that group is what's going to bring this down. The awakening is gathering. It's a spiritual war, isn't it? But you get what they're saying. They're realizing that actually this is between two forces of evil and what we hope love. That this is, when you break it all down, you break through that this is what it is. People act as they do, authority acts as it does, because they're attached and are perceptually dominated by this negative force, this vertigo. And as people awaken, they're increasingly perceptually influenced by love and expanded states of consciousness, wisdom. And so whatever form we may take, it's that consciousness difference that decides how we act, and thus what the world is like. And to hear more and more people say, well, it's a spiritual war, isn't it? They started to see that this is the level it's operating at. What's your state of consciousness? What's your state of perception? Because that dictates everything. Everything comes from that. What we are living or experiencing is a realm of reality that's suffering from the absence of love. And it not just the absence of love, because it's an absence of love, the systematic absence of love, the systematic suppression of love. And what the whole thing is about, on one level, is to close the heart vortex, which is our great access to the great beyond, outside of it, manipulated nonsense. And once that closes, your point of attention moves to the head, thought, and it moves to the belly, emotion. And if you look at humanity, so many decisions and reactions and responses, they come from emotion. And if they don't come from emotion, they come through a process of what we call thought, trying to work it out. Whereas the heart, that's where we get intuition from. And intuition is not something that comes as a series of thoughts leading to a conclusion. That's what this does. And the heart, intuition, is where the knowing comes from. And you get the knowing as a package. It's like, I got this knowing just after the turn of the millennium. We live in a simulation and the walls of it are the speed of light. It was 20 years before an academic put that into Scientific American through a process of thought. And so they want to shut that down because it stops your connection to out there on a massive scale. And and people think that you talk about love and things like that, but it's kind of weakness, or it's macho. You've got to be macho. Well, love is the ultimate strength, because love is without that. I mean, love in this sense is without that. It takes our power away, which is fear. Love doesn't do fear because it knows there's nothing to fear, and love will always do what it knows to be right. It won't go through a list of consequences and then decide if it's going to do what it knows to be right. Like group number two, I know what I should do, but I'm too frightened to do it, so I'm not going to do it. It doesn't, because what are the consequences for me? It doesn't go through that process, because to contemplate not doing what you know to be right it is something that love can never sanction. Because why would I consequences for not doing what I know to be right, when I'm always going to do what I know to be right, and so it's the ultimate strength, it's the ultimate power. You look at those who in history have come from this real sense of love, and they're the ones that have gone out knowing that it was going to be very challenging, but they've gone out and done it anyway. and said what they believe anyway, because they know that whatever happens, they're always going to be a unique expression of all that is, has been, and ever can be. You know, once you realize that, once that self-identity sinks in, you lose the fear of death. And the fear of death is one of the greatest human control systems. All the power and prestige of the medical profession, which is thoroughly undeserved in vast tracts of it, as we've seen in the last 2 years, comes from the fear of death. And the list of consequences for doing what you know to be right also includes the fear of death. If I do this, will they kill me? So many people say, well, I'm not going to take that chance. Well, what love says is, I'm going to do what I know to be right, and what happens, happens. Because I may leave this world, but I'm still I. I'm still the I always was. And it's the ultimate power, not least against this force of evil, because the force of evil gets its power and its sense of omnipotence through fear and through intimidation. It gets people frightened of it in its various forms. It intimidates people through its various forms, and therefore people do what it wants. Love won't do that. It won't do that. And that's why that's the answer. It always has been. The power of numbers and the power of numbers is what is going to bring this to an end. And that takes courage. And the more spiritually aware and the more spiritually self-identified we can be, the easier it will be to find that courage. What are current events saying to humanity as a whole? This is what happens when you give your power away. Because someone's going to pick that power up and use it back against you. Stop giving it away. What's the solution? We need solutions. No, we don't. We need to remove the cause of the problem. And the cause of the problem is humanity giving its power to authority unquestioningly. And if we stop doing it, then we'd realize a very simple truth. Authority has no power unless we give it to them.